to the channel, and welcome to my review of the Batman movie starring Robert Pattinson, directed by Matt Reeves. This will be spoiler-free. I'm just going to go through some of the story a little bit, the characters, and sort of the film as in general, but I won't be talking about any sort of spoilers in regards to the plot, the reveals, anything like that. So let's get started. I want to start with just sort of giving you a little insight with my history with Batman on the silver screen. So the first movie I saw was Batman '89, starring Michael Keaton. And I liked the first movie. I liked Batman Returns. Those were directed by Tim Burton. And then Hollywood thought that that version was too dark for children, and they wanted to sell some more merch, essentially just toys, things like that. And they flipped the script and went with another director. His name was Joel Schumacher, and he did Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Batman Forever was Val Kilmer as Batman, and Batman and Robin was George Clooney. And they were really colorful, goofy, over the top, just silly versions of Batman that I didn't really like. I thought some of the casting was okay. I thought Jim Carrey, especially at that time, was a decent pick for the Riddler. And I thought that Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy was great. I mean, first of all, she's gorgeous, and I thought she looked the part, and so did Jim Carrey. In my vision of what I see those characters as I thought they were good casts, but those movies didn't do very well at all. They certainly didn't do well with fans. Again, I'm just a normie, and even I was like, these movies are kind of. I mean, at the time, it was like, hey, it's Batman, and then after you kind of get done, I was like, oh, that's kind of stupid. There's a lot of cheesy shit in there. The Christopher Nolan trilogy, I thought, was a really good trilogy. I didn't think that The Dark Knight Rises was that good. There were things about it that I did like, for sure. But coming off of The Dark Knight, which was just the high mark of that trilogy, The Dark Knight Rises was a kind of a letdown. So I've never really cared so much about canon and lore. When it comes to these movies, superhero movies, I understand that it's going to be the interpretation of the director, and there is a lot of corporate. I don't want to say corporate, like studios, like WB. They own DC, and they have a lot of say in what goes on the screen and what goes into these movies. Look at Joel Schumacher. They brought him in for, to turn the movie into more of a fun, sort of silly movie for the kids, and it was a total miss. Those movies were misses completely. And I understand that this movie is an interpretation. I get that. There were things that I didn't like, for sure, regarding the plot, the stories, the characters. There was some misses, for sure, like big misses in some regard, that I will get into in my spoiler cast. This one I won't get into it too much, but there were some things that I just did not like plot wise. I thought were very poor. So let's get into the specifics of this movie. First of all, I made the mistake of not knowing how long this movie was, and I usually do that. I usually will always check the runtime so that when I sit down, I know how long I'm going to be sitting there. And I didn't check. I just kind of assumed it was going to be a 2 hour and 20 minute, 2.5 hour movie. It's a 3 hour movie, 2 hours and 55 minutes. So know that going into this. I think it was too long. I think the movie was a good 15, maybe even 20 minutes too long. It felt towards the end like we were just sort of we were stretching the ending out way too far. I do think this movie is worth your time. I think it respects your time. I think it's a good movie. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I had fun watching it. There were some really high highs and some lows, for sure. And the best way that I could say this is this movie, I really liked this movie, but it had some glaring flaws. And the things that I liked, I really liked. And the things that I didn't like, I really didn't like. So, but in the grand scheme of things, I thought I liked more than I didn't. So let's get into some of the specifics. Robert Pattinson as Batman. So I really don't, I don't have a lot of like I haven't seen him in a lot of movies. I just know him from the Twilight series, and that's more of a meme now. I really didn't feel like he was the right cast for the look, just his physical appearance. I think him in the suit as Batman, I thought he looked great. I thought he looked like Batman. He pulled that part off. What I didn't like was his Bruce Wayne. I thought his Bruce Wayne was not good. I didn't understand the the time frame that we were looking at, especially with Bruce Wayne and like where he's at in his life. In the beginning, it sort of made it seem like he was a younger person, like a young man. And when I think of a young man in my mind, I'm thinking early 20s. And Robert Pattinson is like mid 30s. So it didn't fit. He seemed like a 35-year-old man acting like a very young person, like a 24-year-old man or a 21-year-old man. He was very brooding. He was pale. He just was he was a recluse. It was, and again, if he had been a younger person as a a younger actor, it might have made more sense. But the movie sort of with this older person as Batman and then sort of making it seem like he's younger, it was sort of those two didn't mesh well with me. And Normie Wife said the same thing. We both talked about it after the fact, and she was asking me like, well, how old is he? Where is he at in his life? And I was like, I don't know. I was kind of confused. So that part I didn't like. I think his Bruce Wayne was he just had that brooding teen. He looked like he kind of had that. And I said this when I saw the trailer. I thought he looked like a Japanese anime character, black suit, skinny black tie, white shirt, and then hair, down in his face. And he wasn't clean cut. He just didn't have that Bruce Wayne look to him. And again, I don't, as a normie, I don't know if might be the perfect interpretation of Bruce in his younger years. I don't know. I just know Bruce from the movies that I've seen in the Batman Arkham series, which I loved. When I was a kid, I saw that, I didn't see every single episode as a kid, but I watched a lot of those. Like that was my after school cartoon. And he was, he's kind of he's a playboy, he's a playboy, he's a billionaire, he's driving flashy cars, wearing, he's always dressed to the nines in front of, the public. And then when he's out of the public eye, he becomes like his real self, who is a detective, someone who is fighting the underbelly of Gotham City. He's fighting crime lords. He's fighting, criminals. He's chasing down and capturing supervillains. Like that's what he does. And this one to me was just it was just like he was Batman all the time. It was just Batman even when he's Bruce Wayne, he's still being Batman. So I didn't like that part of it. The thing that I did like him as Batman, I thought it was cool that he was using his gadgets. I thought it was cool that he was actually being a detective. That was one thing that I remembered from the cartoons was like, this is back in, like the early 90s, but the technology that he was using in those cartoons, it was really neat. It was like, oh, this is so cool. Yeah. He's using his gadget. He's super smart and he's using technology that's way beyond, and that was cool. I liked it. They pulled that off in this movie. I had the feeling of like Batman is a detective solving a crime. And I like the idea that he's working along the police as opposed to being this sort of vigilante who was being hunted down by the police, which was very like that was Burton sort of did that, Christopher Nolan did that, but this one he's standing a little bit shoulder to shoulder with the police, and I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know, maybe that's just, and that might not be that might not be canon or lore, but I liked it. I thought the crime and suspense part of the crime that he's solving the plot, I thought it was good. I thought it was interesting. Like I was interested in sort of him solving the crime. I liked that part. His Batmobile, I did not like in the trailer. I like it now. I'm not going to say anything else because I don't want to spoil anything, but I like the Batmobile. I think it was cool. Again, for me personally, every iteration of the Batmobile before Nolan's version was always sleek, fast, jet car. And since Nolan's version, it's more of like a tank. It's, this big hulking APC smashing through buildings sort of vehicle. When I saw this, I thought the same thing. Like, here we go again. It's another vehicle that it's like an artillery vehicle. And I didn't like that going into it, but it actually kind of fit. So I appreciate it. I liked it. Um, the costume, I thought the costume was cool. At first, it was kind of off-putting because it's very bulky. And Pattinson, he did not bulk up for this film. He looks very skinny and gaunt. But when he puts the costume on, he looks huge, and he's very tall. And the thing that made the most sense for the bulkiness was, and this is in the trailers too, he gets shot with guns at point blank range, and he is bulletproof, and it makes sense. Like I was like, oh yeah, you can't have some little thin, spandex suit stop bullets. And if they're going to do a version of him being sort of bulletproof, you have to make it more believable. And I thought it fit. I thought that fit with what, you know, the laws of physics in our world, how they work, and with guns and how bullets, what they can do to a person and to a suit. It all worked for me. Everything just sort of, I liked it. I thought his suit was cool. At first I didn't though. When I first saw him, I'm like, geez, he looks kind of puffy, but it came out all right. The cinematography I thought was great. The use of camera angles and the shots that were taken, I thought were really good. There were some really great scenes, and I thought it was they did a decent job with the fight scenes. The fight choreography I thought was decent. It was kind of slow. They were really going with that more slow, brooding, like barroom brawl style. I wish they would just, because my understanding, like when I played the Arkham games, he's a martial artist. He's versed in several different martial arts, so he uses them, and he also can just straight up, fisticuffs fight. I thought that I thought I was going to see a little bit more of some kicks, just a little bit of martial arts. It doesn't have to be Jackie Chan, it doesn't have to be Jet Li or Bruce Lee. I just would like to see a little bit of martial arts, and we didn't see that. So I thought that was kind of a miss, but otherwise I thought the fights were okay. They weren't like fantastic. The thing that I liked was there was the bad guys actually use guns and they actually shoot him, and it works. Too often, I think these superhero movies, when you have a hero that doesn't have any superpowers and they're just a human, they always do the thing where the bad guys have the guns and they never use them unless they shoot at them from a distance, and as soon as they get close, they have to get so close so that the hero can disarm them, or they actually use the gun like a club or a melee weapon. And it's just so stupid. Just stop putting, if you can't justify why a villain who wants to kill a hero doesn't shoot them when they have the chance, then don't fucking do it. Just don't put the guns in the hands of the bad guys. And for this version of Batman, I thought it was cool because they are shooting him, they're putting bullets all up in him, and I thought it was cool. And because his suit works, and I liked it. I thought it was cool. I thought the music was really good. I thought the music for his theme, the Batman theme of the film, I thought it was good. It was very. It had like, the music was like really powerful when it needed to be, more subtle and sinister when it needed to be. And, that kind of leads me into sort of the plot. This was a very dark setting. It was very dark visually. It was rainy, all the time, most of the time, I should say. And the themes of the film are pretty dark. This was, I mean, they kind of, they don't, it's not gory, and it's not anything that I would say, you know, I'm not going to tell you if you have a child, you raise your child at your discretion whenever you think they're ready to see some movie. Some kids aren't. Some kids, there might be a 16-year-old who might see this movie and be like, wow, that's too much. It freaked me out. I think this movie deals with dark themes, but they did it in a way where we didn't have to see gore. We didn't have to hear specifics that really would cross that line of it kind of being too much. I thought it walked that line pretty damn good. And I actually don't mind. To me, I thought a good comparison would be kind of Daredevil season one, because that's the only one I've seen. I've only seen like 3 or 4 episodes of the second one, second season, I should say, and I just sort of fell off. But I thought season one of Daredevil, this reminded me of that. And which is why it made it a little confusing that Robert Pattinson, his character, in real life, he's like mid-30s. He looks mid-30s. It would have made a little more sense if he was younger, but whatever. I thought that was a decent comparison. it worked for me, and I know that there are some reviewers out there that didn't like the dark setting, and they're giving it some bad reviews because of it. Whatever. I thought it was fine. And it didn't bring me down. I didn't feel like I didn't need to be elevated to some euphoric state so that I knew I was in a fantasy land of Gotham City. It's like, no, it's, and it's a very grounded movie. That's another thing too, is like Daredevil is a very grounded movie. Or I'm sorry, show. This is a very grounded movie in that there's no Steppenwolf. There's no Superman. There's nothing like that that's like supernatural or godlike that interferes. This is Batman dealing with Gotham City, dealing with a villain who doesn't have superpowers, and he takes, and taking that character down or taking that villain down is like the point of the story. And I liked it. I thought it was good. Okay, so let's move on to a couple of the side characters before I get to the Riddler. Colin Farrell as the Penguin, I thought he was a standout. I thought he was kind of a scene stealer. He's funny, and his comedy was welcome, and it landed. And I thought Colin Farrell did a great job. He doesn't even look like Colin Farrell. You can tell if you look at his eyes, and then you can hear it in his voice sometimes. Like you can hear that Colin come out of him. But I thought he was great. I really enjoyed it. I thought he was the standout for me in terms of just surprise character. Pattinson was the star of the show, but Colin Farrell was he was a little scene stealer. I liked him, liked his character. So Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle, thought she was good. I didn't think she was bad. I don't really think Zoe Kravitz is a spectacular actor. I think she's middle of the road. She's good. She can work on, like, she does a great job on screen. She's very easy on the eyes. She's good looking woman. She's very attractive, but she just sort of kind of has the same. She's kind of always Zoe Kravitz. Like, you just always know that's her. It's kind of the same character. So I'd like to see her be a little more range. I like to see some more range out of her. But other than that, I thought she was just fine as Catwoman. And she didn't steal the show. I kind of thought that with the trailer that she was going to be. The trailers were really pushing the Catwoman and the Batman. It was like the Bat and the Cat sort of. That's their, we're putting them together. It's their movie. No, this is a Batman movie, and it worked. I liked it, but she did a good job. Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon. He's another actor that I really like. I've only seen him in a few roles, but the roles that I've seen him in, he's done a good job. He's got a cool voice. He's got a cool look. He really gets into his character, it seems like. He does, and I think it's because of his voice. He does have kind of a unique voice. He's a little bit samey in some of his roles, but I'm not, like I said, I think he did great. I think he did a good job. John Turturro, I didn't even know he was in this film. He was sort of a surprise for me, and I thought he was a good character. I forgot to put his name down. What was his name in the movie? Oh yeah, he's Carmine Falcone, and I've always been a fan of his. Been a fan of his since like the '90s. I mean, he's a good actor. He's been doing it for a long time, and I thought he did a good job. He was a little typical bad guy, typical mafia boss, but I think he was good. I liked it. I thought the plot was a little messy at times. There's a lot of names, a lot of references, there's just a lot of information when the characters on screen are sort of solving the mystery, because it's definitely more of a murder mystery thriller type show, or I'm sorry, type movie. And there's a lot of information, and there's a web that's being woven throughout the entire film. And I thought the reveals, some of them were good. I didn't like some of them. I thought some of them, and that was just more of a personal thing. I didn't think it was bad plot wise. I thought it was bad canon wise. And I'm just a normie, but they made some creative decisions with characters that I just didn't agree with, because they just didn't fit. And I'll get into it in my spoiler cast, but I thought the plot was good. I didn't think it was bad. I just thought it was a little convoluted with all of the stuff that was going on. And I think it kind of suffered. It kind of drug it down for me a little bit. And even Normie wife, she was leaning over a couple of times like, who's that? What are they talking about? And I'm like, just watch the movie. But we talked about it after we got out and into the car and we were driving home, and she was like, I was lost at certain points, and I was like, yeah, there was some names and references that they were saying that I had to stop and think, like, where did I hear that before? So just know that going into it. Let me see, what was the last? Oh yeah, so let's get into the Riddler. That was so he was played by Paul. I think it's Paul Dano. He is a good actor. Not a bad actor. I haven't seen him in a lot of things. I think he's good in the roles that he plays. When I saw that he was cast as the Riddler, I was like, okay, cool. Let's see what's up. Go get him, Paul. I didn't like this version of the Riddler. Not a comic reader, but I've seen his character in cartoons. I've seen the Riddler in the Arkham games. This was a big departure from those characters, and that's just what I know as the Riddler. So maybe this is a perfect iteration from the comic books or some sort of graphic novel, or because I understand that comics have so many different stories. A series, that's what they're called, like a series of comics that come out and by different writers and artists, and they each sort of have their own, they've established a lot of lore and canon, and there's a lot of different versions of like Batman or Spider-Man, oh, excuse me, different versions of Superman. I didn't think that this version of the Riddler fit, and I understand that, and I'm cool. I'm not one of those people who, when directors and writers, they have their own interpretation of a character. I mean, that's what this is, right? This is an established IP, an established character, and Matt Reeves and Warner Brothers, they're making an iteration of that, their version, their interpretation of that character. This version of the Riddler I didn't like. I just didn't like him. I thought he was, I thought it was good up until, I thought it was decent up until a point, and then to me just kind of went off the rail. And I will get more into that with my spoiler cast and talk more specifics, but I'm going to wrap it up there. The Batman, I think, is a good movie. I think it respects your time. I think you'll like it. Just know that it's a very long movie, and that it's dark. It's sort of darker themes, and there are some creative choices that might seem a little off. At least they were to me. You may love them, and I hope you do. I hope this movie does really well. If my understanding's correct, I think that they're going to do it. They're going to try to make a trilogy. I hope they do. I really do, because I think this movie is worth a part 2 and 3, and I hope it gets greenlit. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it there. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, share it with a friend. If you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button. You have a great day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.